We got a 1, a 2, and a 3. And the third video in 3 days. Metal Mike coming back at ya. And we're going to keep these videos pumping out. And today is, obviously, it's always on some level. It's either about life, or junking, or picking, or collecting, hoarding, storing, storage, whatever we want to fall under. But today is, I'm going to touch on a subject. Lemmy from MOTORHEAD passed away within this past week, and the impact from that, boy, you're just, if you are not a metal fan, then you probably don't even know who Lemmy is, and you haven't even noticed his passing from this world. But if you are a heavy metal, punk rock, rock and roll fan of any level, you know exactly who Lemmy is. Whether you're a fan of his or not, we don't know, right? But I am. I'm a huge fan of Lemmy's, and I just wanted to share some feelings on him because I feel like the impact is just huge. It's like a meteor hitting the planet. Now a lot of people say, well, hey, that's life, you know, we all come and go, we do our time and it's over, and that's life, man. Everyone dies. No one lives forever, right? Aren't these all the cliche comments that we hear? Some people like to mourn shortly. I heard a guy, or not heard, I read someone that was speaking about this, the guy from Dark Throne. That's a black metal band out of Norway, if I'm correct. He basically said, I'm not a quick mourner. Each day I mourn, when I lose someone, I mourn them every day that I'm here. On some level I think about them and am humbled by their memory and the impact that they've had on my life. And Lemmy has had that kind of impact. And that's why I wanted to make a video and try to shoot from the heart. None of this is scripted, of course. I'm just rambling as if you were sitting in my shop. And that's what I like about my videos, is no different than if it's 1970 and I have a small collectible junk store and you come in, I give you a cup of coffee and a donut. So if you got a cup of coffee, take a sip, sit back, and listen to my rambling. If you got a cigarette, smoke it. If you have an alcohol drink in your hand, drink it. Whatever your vice is, whatever calms you, put your feet up, relax, listen to a story, because that's what I'm going to tell you right now, except it's a real story, and the impact that Lemmy from MOTORHEAD has had on me, the whole band MOTORHEAD. Gosh, where to start? The year would have been, I guess, in 1983, 1984 is when I really began to explore heavy metal. Before that it was Kiss and Van Halen and Blondie and the Cars and really you name it. It was across the board. But in 1983 the tide started to change. Metal really began to come to the head. As a Kiss fan, Kiss in '83 released their album Creatures of the Night, which was by far, could easily be their heaviest album they ever released. Of course, we could argue about that all day long. But that's when the tide really started to change, and there was something out of Europe, England, coming, the new wave of British heavy metal. You had bands like Def Leppard, Motorhead was part of it. Even though, realistically, Motorhead started in the 1970s, mid-70s. Lemmy had been in a band called Hawkwind, and then went on and formed Motorhead after that. With Filthy on drums and Fast Eddie Clarke on guitar, three-piece. If you don't know who Motorhead is, let me give you some advice. I think there's one album that will really cover it all for you. It's a good place to start, and then you could go forwards or backwards from that album. But No Remorse is basically, it's a greatest hits album. Now, I've never liked greatest hits albums, but this No Remorse was a 2-album set. And came out, I want to think, 84, 85. It came in a leather-bound edition, if you were lucky to get. So the sleeve of the record album was leather. And really that covers everything from their first album up until that point. Now mind you, this is 84, 85, and they're releasing a greatest hits. They were in a change at the time with the band. Fast Eddie Clarke had left, they had gotten another guy in, they had released an album called Another Perfect Day, with Robo on guitar, and it wasn't really liked by the critics. I don't know what exactly happened. To me, it's one of the greatest albums ever. Another Perfect Day by Motorhead. Just an amazing album. But they were regrouping, and they got 2 new guitar players in there. I want to say Phil Campbell and Wurzel, and Filthy was out for the moment. So they had, I believe, the guy, I want to say Pete Gill, though I can't remember for sure, and I believe he had been in Saxon. So, No Remorse. That's the album you want to start with. I mean, that has all the standard classics on it. Plus, at the time, it had 2 new tracks put on there. Killed by Death, which has become such a classic in its own right, which is ironic in the fact that it was released on a Greatest Hits album and yet became a Greatest Hits all on its own. So it worked out from the start. So Motorhead 83, 84, let's get back to that. You know, I'm into metal. I'm beginning to expand. There's Motley Crue comes into the picture, Rat. I started with that stuff and then started to get into the more heavy stuff, Venom, etc. But let's take it back to 83. 1983, I'm in my English class, and to give you a little insight into my personality, I've never fit in, I've never been cool, even in situations where I worked myself into being in a great job or position, I was still never the cool guy. I was never the one the girls chased. I didn't have that about me. I was not the it guy ever. So 1983, I'm a loner, not many friends. My friends are my music, Kiss, and at this point, 83, you know, I think I'm 15 years old, maybe 16 years old, and I'm really beginning to go into this metal thing, which is helping with my identity and with my just with my confidence. Music, it really did. It gave me almost like a uniform, you know, the jeans, the heavy metal shirt, and as you can see, not much has changed. Really nothing has changed. I've stayed true to who I am, and that has a lot to say about who Lemmy was too, because he was true to who he was and always stayed it and stayed it. Does that make sense? That's another reason I didn't graduate high school, as you can see. I don't speak so well, let's put it that way. So it's 83, and I'm in English class, and I'm looking through, if I remember right, some heavy metal magazine at the time, and there was a picture of Motorhead for the Iron Fist album. And if you've ever seen that album, on the back they have almost kind of medieval leather on, and they're holding swords. And Lemmy, you know, at this point I had not even heard a Motorhead song, but I had known of the band through pictures, looking through my magazine, because in those days there was no internet, obviously, so you'd get the heavy metal magazine, and that is how you learned of bands. And then you'd go to the record store and you'd hunt for that record, and you'd find it, and you'd take it out, and you'd make that decision at that point whether to go further with it and make the purchase, or steal the album, or however the hell you got it, sell a bunch of old ones and buy one new one. I used to actually pilfer my mom's shitty albums, take them back to Kmart, return them, and then take that money and buy a Kiss album or something. So let's get back on track, right? Because I'm always sidetracking. But remember, we're bullshitting, and we're just sitting back. So it's all right. So the story goes like this. I'm sitting in my English class, and I'm thumbing through this magazine, and here is this picture of Motorhead with Lemmy in the center, the big wart, greasy long hair, and he's got this medieval garb on. And for some reason, I was raised by a single mother. I didn't have a father. We were talking about fathers to our English teacher, and I remember I took this magazine up to the teacher. Now, no one knows who Lemmy is. This is 83, you know, maybe early 84. Here in Minnesota, especially an English teacher doesn't know who they are, and I don't even know who they are music-wise. I just know that they're pictures in a magazine. Little black and white photo, too. So not a lot of hype, not a famous band by any means, especially here in Minnesota in 1983, 84. I take it up to the teacher because we're talking about fathers and their roles in our lives. And I point at Lemmy to the teacher, and I say, I wanted to show you something. This is my dad. And the reason I said that, I liked the idea that he was so ugly and so offensive and so rough. And so I made that comment to the teacher, and she, I'm sure, was just like, oh, isn't that nice? It's like, yeah, he's in a band, and, you know, he's this greasy, dirty guy. I don't know what I said in so many words, but that was the gist of it. I said, this is my dad, Lemmy. This is who I wanted to be my dad. Years pass. And I'm into the metal. Years past, we're talking maybe it's 1985. At this point, you know, I'm heavily into metal. I'm into Merciful Fate, Venom, Slayer. So I'm starting to now branch out from where I'd started early with Kiss, and now I have Motorhead, Another Perfect Day, and I fell in love with that album. And then there was a single that came out called Killed by Death. Came out at the same time as the No Remorse double album, Greatest Hits kit. So it's 1984-85 that's released. And that song, Killed by Death, wow, I gravitated towards it immediately. And I spun that. It was a 12-inch single, so it had 3 tracks on it. And I played, actually all the tracks on it were good. And that was the new lineup for Motorhead. And that was really the start for me, was the song Killed by Death by Motorhead. That is where I fell in love with the band, and but never really a huge fan, because at this point, you know, Motorhead's an older band. Even in 84, 85, they'd been around a little bit at this point. So I'm into newer stuff. I'm into, you know, Slayer's coming out, Metallica's coming out, and these are just trailblazers. Of course, the trail started with Motorhead. And I was blessed to have seen Motorhead in 1985 with Slayer at First Avenue. And I have my ticket stubs downstairs. I would bet I probably seen Motorhead 3-4 times in the mid-'80s, 1980s, and in a club atmosphere. So it was amazing and thundering. But at the time, you know, I liked Motorhead, but I was never a huge Motorhead fan. It was just like you had respect. It was just, they had earned it, and everyone liked Motorhead on some level. Their guitar sound, you know, I was more into the crunchy, Metallica, Slayer. I was into just extreme. But what was really great with seeing him in the 1980s is, at the time, there was a huge kind of butting of the heads with the punk rockers and the long-haired heavy metal kids. So the punk rockers would obviously, and skinheads even, racist skinheads would come to the show, Motorhead, and of course they loved to get in the mosh pit and beat up on the long hairs. And stage dive and stuff was huge in those 80s. I don't even know if that exists anymore. I mean, I'm sure on some festivals over in Europe it's tolerated, but I don't know here in the States. But at the time, you know, it was just beginning. At least in a place like Minnesota it was. Of course, on the East and West Coast, I'm sure it was huge, stage diving. But Lemmy stopped the show at one point, and I can't remember in so many words. He's like, "You fucking wankers, you know, don't be jumping off my stage. We are Motorhead, and we play rock and roll, and I'm not going to tolerate that shit. Get the fuck out of here," in so many words. And I just never forget that, standing up to stop with these idiots that were just stage diving, trying to hurt people and stuff. He didn't like that, and he did tolerate it, and he started every show with that, I believe, with "We are Motorhead, and we play rock and roll," which at the time, you know, I was metal, so when someone said, "Well, we're rock and roll," I'm like, that didn't sit too well. Years later, I get it. Obviously, you know, there's something very cool. His rock and roll was heavier than my metal. And all the years pass, a little bit more. Obviously, you start to go back into the music that you love. I continue to listen to the same bands that I did then, and buying back a lot of my youth. And music really does keep me alive. It's been a life force for me, metal, my whole life. In 2011... I was able to go and see Motorhead at First Avenue. Not that long ago, realistically. What's that? 4 years ago? 3 years ago? 4 years ago? Maybe longer? 5 years ago? Time flies. But this time I knew why I was going. I wanted to study Lemmy. I wanted to take Motorhead in, and I did. I went down there for the first song. At this point in my life, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything. So I was clear-headed. I got right down up front, as close as I could get realistically without being in the pit, or where it was just a great comfortable. And I watched the whole show, and I took in every frickin' song, and I felt it, and I lived it. And in many ways, I almost knew that would be the last time I was going to see Lemmy. Because I couldn't believe that here was all these years later I was getting this opportunity to relive it. Because when I'd seen them with Slayer and stuff in those days, you know, it was more about seeing Slayer. Motorhead, you know, it was all about being a social butterfly, being cool, running around with your friends, drinking, all that stuff. So never the focus was so intent on the band. But when I seen him in 2011, I studied him and was just blown away by the power and the aggression. And I love the band. I love Lemmy. And over the last few years, I've watched his decline, and now he passed. And he lived to be 70 years old, but it's just not the same without him here. And you say, well, how the hell does that affect you? Well, someone with that much passion and dedication that worked so, and just, I mean, he built Motorhead into an empire. He built it into a frickin' empire, where now alone that symbol of theirs, Motorhead, people wear it, they don't even know what they're wearing. It's just iconic. It's this, it's that. It's bigger than Elvis in many ways. And what an absurd statement that is, but the reality is bigger than Elvis. Just an amazing man, and that void, just knowing that he's not here anymore doing what he loves, that hurts. Because, man, that man loved to play music. He loved to tour. He loved to have a cigarette. He loved to gamble. And that dedication to what he loved and what he believed in never changed, never wavered. Society and the world came around to him. He didn't come around to them. Most of us, as we get older, you know, we adjust to fit in better here and there. We don't want to ruffle feathers. He remained true from the start and into the finish. And I was hoping so bad that he was going to come through one more time so I could go see him again. I've been waiting and waiting, and actually I believe a North American tour was supposed to happen maybe this summer, and it's not going to happen. And I always, in a roundabout way to picking and junking and antiquing and collecting, how does Lemmy fit into that? Well, I had read a quote in an interview with him years ago that if you just keep banging away at something for 10 years, it'll pay off. And if I remember right, I can't quote him, but I think that was the philosophy that I took from that interview, was basically, and I adapted that to what I do, to my junking and working hard and picking and antiquing. It's just, if you do something for 10 years solid, and you lay everything on the line, it will pay off. And that's exactly what happened with Motorhead. He built something into something even bigger than big. It was already big, but he took it past that and kept going in his passion. And so how can we, what does this have to do with picking and junking? Well, it really can be taken into any aspect in your life, whether it's being a parent or just hard work or growing your business, or maybe you want to write a book. Sit down each day, write, draw, be a junker, read, take it in, work on being a better person. Just each day keep working, and you will succeed at whatever it is that you're after. That inner peace that we all seek is right there. It's, who are you? Be true to who you really are. And that's, maybe I can just end it on that. Be true to who you really are. Don't try to be something you're not. I always remember back to as a child. You know, what were the things that you liked as a young kid? Go back. That person inside of you, keep that alive. That is what will keep you alive as long as you can. Right? Knock on wood. It's such a blessed time here on earth and so golden. But yeah, but to think that such a life force just stops. Such a machine, such a dedicated, hard-working, incredible, smart, intelligent human like Lemmy, gone. Crushing. And guys like that aren't going to come around anymore. And you say, what does that mean, come around? Literally, people aren't, in this day and age of so much news and social media, and even with what I'm doing right now, we're spoiled. The old days, and I think that's why my generation is one of the best generations, because we've got to live on both sides of the blade. You know, growing up, I always heard, oh, the 1950s were the best, the 60s were the best. Oh, and people used to hearken way back. Oh, the early 1900s, the cowboy, those were the best days. But honestly, my generation, to have grown up in the old world where there were payphones and cops on a CB and no caller ID, and to now with the internet and the flip camera and the iPhone, I mean, that is such an insane change. And to have had a foot in each one of them and still living, it's a blessing. And so when and getting back to, so I don't lose my focus with guys like Lemmy, and they're not coming around anymore, that means that those type of guys are pure to who they really were, and I don't think that exists anymore. There's some of us that can continue on in that mold, and that's maybe what we have to do for the Lemmy that has disappeared from this world. Motorhead is gone, but that true passion, staying real to who you are, keep doing it. Be pure. You know, do what you want. This life is so freaking short. If you haven't done something that you want to do, please get out there, do it. So, a little goodbye to Lemmy, a hero of mine. Ozzy said it was his hero. He's definitely a hero of mine. And now that he's gone, sadly, isn't that how it always goes? That's when we really begin to shine a light on who somebody was. It takes sometimes that. I was aware of it before he was gone, but now the light is even brighter on Lemmy. Since he passed, I think I've bought 3 albums that I didn't have of his, and now I really want to get in and study his work. Sad that that's what it takes for some of us to focus, for myself to focus. But Lemmy is alive in my heart. He's alive in his music forever, and we can take Lemmy's existence and being that type of, and being a good person, because that's really what it's all about. So here we've had a little kind of rest in peace for Lemmy, a little bit of advice from me, a little bit of rambling on this Saturday in the sun. I think we got 20 degrees here in Minnesota. We're supposed to get up to 27 as a high, and I've got a little sweat on my brow. I'm going to get downstairs after this, and I'm going to try to get some work done, whether it's organizing my basement, listing an item on eBay, getting something positive done, or just being a good father. Whatever the case, whatever it is you guys do out there, keep banging. Keep going. We're blessed, man. We're still freaking here. We don't know how long this is going to last. What a great quote. I heard someone say on this new TV show that's coming up, there's only one thing guaranteed in life, and that's death. Life is not. Isn't that a fucking bummer? But as long as we're here, shit. Let's just balls out, huh? Let's fucking live. Let's enjoy ourselves. So whatever it is that you enjoy yourself doing, do it. If there's something you always wanted as a young kid, find it. A place you want to go there. A friend that you haven't spoken to in a long time, go and see them. A band you used to listen to when you were a kid, find it. Listen to it. Play it loud. My advice to you is to buy a record player. Buy an old receiver. Get some big old speakers with 12-inch woofers. Like the old days. We're talking speakers that are as big as a coffee table. Set them up. Drop that needle on your old vinyl. Don't forget who you are. Lemmy, we love you. Brother, you're alive, and all of us. Rest in peace. God bless you. Bless your soul. I know you can rest calmly now. But for the rest of us, find the passion. Get out there, get it. Find the treasure. Hey now! Metal Mike. Always junkin'. Always philosophing. That ain't even a word, is it? But who gives a shit, right? That's who I am. I'm going to say shit wrong. Live, everyone. Peace. Have a great, 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 great Saturday. Get out there, find that treasure, because it's out there, right? Hey now! Beep, beep.